Now, from that first flight of the space shuttle Columbia launched the first space flight in 1981, the lifespan of these vehicles, the clock began to run. The end of time timepiece clock was set from the year of 1981. In other words, God had to make plans to cause two invasions to go forward in Iraq, which is the land of Uzziah. This is what God had to do. And done so, God, since God had used in the prophecy of Job that two peoples was going to have the same surname. When he called Job 1, he says called him Satan, and Job 2, he called him Satan. But he tells you in by describing Job 1 and Job 2, showing that these was two separate invasions of the land of Abraham. In doing so, God signified that these nations upon which the commander in chief upon which God used the surname as Satan was the father and son duo. However, the space shuttle by the United States was having been the only nation on this planet having a reusable space shuttle which could go into outer space and come in and land as the same as a regular commercial aircraft. This signified that these two men in question, who God called Satan, came from the United States of America, and this was the United States of America. This is how God spoke to us in time, showing us that He's seen this and all this was going to happen. Now take care of that part. This was another part which troubled me that I have at another news clipping. This is what troubled me. Before something just happened, I guess, before the Trade Center was even built good. It's a 2272, 2nd February 1972. This was in November 15th. China in United Nations. Excuse me. Chinese flags is raised at UN. November 15th. The People's Republic of China made its formal entry into the United Nations. As chief delegation, Xiao Kun rebuked its members for allowing the superpowers to manipulate and monopolize the international organizations. You hear what he said? The superpower. He saw that there was a problem. In other words, a little person like me can get in there. So, but China got there, and the hands of God was on him. He saw some discrepancy in the way they do business in the United Nations. The superpower was dominating the little small one, because this is going to play a part of the knocking down of the Trade Center buildings, how long this had gone on. This is God's way of talking to us. This is what this nation leader said. The 6-member delegation that arrived in New York last Tuesday was the first group of Chinese officials to visit the United States since 1950, when diplomats from Peking participated in a United Nations debate on the Korean War. In his welcome address to the Chinese delegations at the General Assembly, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, George Bush was the ambassador. Isn't this something? Remarked that although nations were sharply divided on the issue of Taiwan explosion, nearly all countries, including the U.S., agreed that the moment in history has arrived for the People's Republic of China to be in the United Nations. In his address, Chao, clad in a blue male's tunic, criticized Japanese and U.S. efforts to create two Chinese in the United Nations and reiterated his nation's determined to liberate Taiwan. He also pledged support to Arab nations, listen to this, opposed to Israel Zionists, condemned the U.S. military's presence in Vietnam, and vowed that under no circumstance will China be first to use nuclear weapons. In a bid for leadership of the Third World, China went on to remark that his nation opposed the politics of big nations bullying small ones, or strong nation bullying weak one. Countries want independence, nations want liberations, and the peoples want revolution, the new Chinese delegation declared. This is a very important notation that was spoken. All these words spoken of by this man showed some concern about the superpowers, even before the knocking down the Trade Center building. It is consistent with Bible prophecy what God was concerned about when he spoke concerning the matter of this Trade Center building. It showed that there was some discrepancy in there, and it showed that there was a difference between the superpower nations and the nations that was under the umbrella of God, who was the nations of the Arab world. We can't get around this. These are very important facts here. So we have to go back into history and search the record over. But if we just keep looking ahead, we're going to see only what they put before us. But when you look and see who was the UN George ambassador to the UN, George Bush, George Bush, 1981. What does tell us? God spoke concerning this man in prophecy and said, called him Satan. This was the Father. Not the Son, but the Father. 1981. This is a long time to be established and become established into a place if you're not a part of the system. This is why God called this man Satan in Job 1, and his son Job 2 he called Satan. There was a hidden agenda that I can see concerning this matter when we see this evidence. This is all I can see. I don't have the ability to go over there and look through the records and see what's what. But when we get these news clippings, all we have to do, these become footprints which identify the source and identify an agenda, identify a pedigree of nationality, of peoples, and of nations who seek to dominate and who seek to exterminate or who seek to be liberated. What I'm going to say is China was concerned about this matter. Jesus was concerned about this matter, and so was God. Spoken of in Daniel chapter 8, Ezekiel chapter 9. When dissected. So this is where I want to go with the vision of the knocking down Trade Center, because uh,